This is your host, Jason Snellgrove, and I will be your guide as we journey down the road to pleasure hunt or hitting the long trail to those great comp hunts. This is the Coonhound Collective podcast. All right, welcome to the Coonhound Collective podcast tonight. Boy, tonight we have got a good one for you coming, so stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss it. I am running solo on this one. My co-host is not with me tonight, but no fear, he'll be back real soon. I'm sure of it. But before we get going here, I have some Apple reviews that I'm going to read real quick before we get going on this conversation I'm going to have. I think everybody's going to enjoy it. It's going to be interesting for sure. So, first Apple review from Banjo Chris. Flip the Script. 5 stars. Great podcast. Really glad you started back up. My daughter and I laughed the whole way through the Flip the Script episode, and I really enjoyed the snacks with a biblical reference episode. Keep up the good work. Man, we appreciate it. We enjoyed those, and we really appreciate everybody that listens and sends in some reviews. This is from my buddy Cane Creek Kennels there in Mississippi. Old Jeremy Gardner. Jeremy, we appreciate you listening. Back in the saddle. Great podcast, fellas. Glad to hear you back on the air. Always look forward to listening to your interviews. Y'all keep them coming. We are going to sure try to. We missed last week, but we're trying to get back on track here. We had quite a bit of things going on. My son graduating, and just couldn't get all the stars to align to get this done. So we're going to try to keep them rolling. And this is from Cutting Hair. Great podcast, 5 stars. Great podcast for the coon hunter. Always look forward to them. Thank you, buddy. We appreciate that. We appreciate everyone that listens out there and supports us. If you're listening to this on Apple, stop real quick and give us a 5-star review. Drop us a couple of lines. We'll read them here on air as they come in. And if you don't mind while you're there, how about sharing this podcast on your social media pages? That will help us out, help the podcast grow and grow a bigger listener base. And trust me, we have some interviews lined up with several guys, and there's several of them that you're going to want to make sure that you're following or subscribe to the show so you can hear it, because you are not going to want to miss them. They're going to be big time interviews, and we appreciate those guys taking their time to sit down to be on the podcast with us. And even though he's not here, I have to give my co-host a shout out. He really stepped up and helped me get these interviews. So we'll say most of all the work was because of old Brett Big Money. He helped me get those lined up, and we're gonna get those guys interviewed and try to get them turned around and out quick as we can, because like I said, there's going to be several of them that people are really going to want to hear, I think. So, but anyway, if you're listening through Apple or Spotify, Podbean, ever how you're listening, if you don't care, just take a minute and whatever you have to click a button or whatever, and copy and paste this show into your social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and share it on there. We would really appreciate that. I would like to take a moment here before I do get going and give another buddy of mine a shout out. And I'm trying to get it worked around to get with this fella and get him sat down and interview him. And that's my good buddy Aaron Gamble. Him and Crush are your 2024 Missouri State PKC champions. And I'm just going to tell you, if I owned a blue tick female and she come in heat, that would be the guy I'd be trying my best to talk to see if I could breed her. That is a cast winning dog. He placed second in the truck hunt for PKC, not last year, but the year before. And then this year, he also got a truck ticket to go back. And he's just a winner. So congratulations, Aaron. I know you've been on a tear here lately, and a much-deserved 2024 Missouri State PKC champion. You and Chris just keep rolling on. So congratulations there, buddy. And so we're gonna take a moment here and get the phone ringing and see if we can get our caller on and get this podcast underway. I think it's going to be a good podcast. I think y'all are really going to enjoy it. And I think there's going to be a lot of information that comes out of this podcast. So make sure you stick around, and we'll get our caller on the phone momentarily. Stand by. Real quick before we get our caller on here, I did need to give one more shout out that I haven't done in a while, but they are well overdue. And that's Borderline Bluegrass. Daniel Schilling, which y'all have heard him here on the podcast. Him and Patrick, I have them on from time to time, and we talk about past episodes and a few other things, but Daniel's in a bluegrass band called Borderline Bluegrass, and they are all the background noise music that you hear on our podcast. Pretty much all of it comes from their band. They have been so great to be able to provide that music for us. That intro music that you hear, that is their band. If you go back and listen to the episode at the Coondog Cemetery, that background music and that bit that I read, that is from their band. And they've been so generous to allow me to take that music and use it how I see fit to and need to. And I really want to give them a big shout out here and thanks for allowing me to be able to use that music. So Daniel, thank you. Borderline Bluegrass, thank y'all. I appreciate y'all providing that music for us to be able to use. It really means a lot to me and helps. All right, welcome to the Coonhound Collective podcast tonight. I have Mr. Nick Williams with us. Nick, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Oh, just fine. Hey, won't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of where you're from?
Okay, well, my name's Nick Williams. I'm originally, of course, I live kind of in the Huntsville area of Alabama now, but I was born and raised in Areb, which is probably about 30 minutes south of Huntsville. I've got a beautiful wife and 3 kids, 2 daughters and 1 little boy. I run a business, kind of a foundation. I'm a licensed home builder, but I don't build homes. I fix problems with them that, from the foundation down. I've had anywhere all the way up to 12 to 15 employees at one time. I think I got about 8 right now. But yeah, I guess that's about sums it up for me as far as.
Okay. How did you get into messing with dogs, street dogs? Was it coon dogs always, or did you start with something else?
Well, no, actually, my uncle, he's my great uncle. He's my grandmother's brother. He always had dogs. When you go over to his house, he'd have blue tick hounds, and he was a rabbit hunter. He had mountain curs too. He squirrel hunted with and coon hunted with, and I was growing up. Just the thought of hunting, with dogs, just really, always wanted to do it. Always wanted to try it. So he invited me and my dad to go rabbit hunting. So we started going rabbit hunting with him, and we'd get back in from rabbit hunting, and I liked rabbit hunting. Don't get me wrong, but we get home, or get back to his house, and I'd always start asking him about the bigger hounds, like the blue ticks. I always thought the blue ticks were so pretty, and Well, he said, well, one night, we'll go coon hunting. So he arranged it, and me and my dad showed up. I was probably 12 or 13. Maybe started rabbit hunting with him when I was 11 or 12. But anyway, the first night we went hunting, he took a mountain cur and a blue tick, and I remember, it was one of those perfect nights. It was in the fall. The air was, just perfect temperature, and I remember he turned them dogs loose, and I heard that blue tick go down there and start trailing, and it started barking, different. That's about all I knew then. And he said he's telling us he's got him, and we went in there, and I remember the first time I walked in and seen a hound stretched out on a tree, and that Ricky was over his head. It done something to me, and I've loved it ever since. So we wound up treeing 3 that night, and that's all I could think about. And I remember I got a puppy. It never amounted to anything out of it, but yeah, I got a blue tick puppy, and of course I was just a little kid, didn't have a clue how to train one or nothing, but yeah, that pup didn't wind up working out, but anyways, I think it was off that blue tick he carried with us that night.
So was those great dogs or registered dogs there?
No, they were registered dogs. I remember I had papers on that dog, and I kept her probably to about a year and a half. Now, he lived probably about an hour north of me, and he might have come back and taken me once or twice. I remember he did come back and get that puppy from me and was going to take it hunting. And he took it hunting some, and he brought it back over there, and he just said, I just don't think she's going to make it. I remember that. And then he called me out of the blue one night a few weeks, after he brought that puppy back, and he said, hey, I've got about a 8-year-old blue tick over here. He said he's a trained dog. All you got to do is take him and put him in the woods, and he'll tree come. Well, I couldn't wait to get up there, and I remember I got that dog. My uncle brought him to me like on a Tuesday night, and it was sometime earlier in the week, and I couldn't wait for it to get weekend. And I remember at Friday night when I got home, it was like in the fall of the year, I took that blue tick, and I guess this is what really hooked me. It's different when you go with somebody else's, but when you take your own dog, especially kind of out by yourself, and you go catch a coon with it. But I just took it out there behind my house, and I turned it loose, and I remember sitting there in a chair. My mom actually went up to town to go pick some stuff up, and I remember hearing that dog out there, and I heard it strike. I didn't know a lot about it, and then all of a sudden I heard it, just start barking every breath, and I knew it was treed. So I went back and told Dad, and you could just barely hear him. He said, well, when your mom gets back in from town, we'll go to it. And that was a real long wait. But I remember when my mom got back, me and my dad took a light, and we didn't even have a 22 back then. We had a shotgun. We took a shotgun down there and went and shot. It was a great big old boar coon. And anyway, that done something to me. And the next night I hunted that dog. We took him probably 2 or 3 miles away from a place. I didn't have no tracking system. This was back in the early 90s. And that dog wound up getting killed. It just broke my heart. I just had bad luck with that, but that did do something too, you know what I mean? And but yeah, that was kind of my first, and he was registered, but I didn't care nothing about competition hunting or nothing like that at the time. But
yeah, you were just pleasure hunting, just out having a good time.
Oh yeah, just pleasure hunting. I just wanted to tree coons back then. I could care less what it looked like, but they was something to me that was real pretty about a blue tick hound,
So do you remember what any of those hounds were off of, or anything about their papers?
No, it was a stock up. No, I really don't. And now that you bring that up, I would kind of like that. Would kind of interest me to go back and find that out. There was my uncle hunted with a guy named J.C. Holcomb that lived in Baileyton, which was on the other side of Arab. And I'm pretty sure he bred that line of blue tick. And there was a lot of people around that area that had blue ticks off that line that would run in tree coons. But how they were bred, I would hate to even guess.
Yeah. I had a black and tan in high school that I first started competition hunting, and I had misplaced his papers. I had him till he died, and I got with Trevor, and he helped me track the papers down, and I ended up ordering a set. And it's pretty cool to go back and look and see what those dogs are out of.
Yeah, it was a real good line of blue tick. Now they didn't hunt, they weren't like, like this style of dog that I like now, and like everybody. They would go hunt, but they hunted around you. When they smelled coons, they'd tree them. Colder nose type dogs.
Yeah, yeah. So your blue tick got run over. Where did you go from there?
Okay. So I did wind up getting I bought an older walker dog, that would tree coons, and I didn't pay that much money for him, and I kept him there a couple of months. I liked him, and then one day a guy called me that knew him and said, "Hey, you want to sell that hound?" I think he was some old stylish breeding. This would have been, early mid '90s. Probably more close to the mid '90s. I was coming close to 14 or 15, about to drive. Anyways, I wound up selling him and double my money for what I paid for him, and I went and bought a younger walker dog. And a buddy of mine had a black and tan, and we started hunting together. That dog name was Preacher. Now he was directly off of Ozark Screaming Bow. I don't know if you remember that hound or not. He was he was bred a lot, and he actually, that dog, that black and tan I was talking about, he had a lot of go to him. I mean, he was a turn him loose. You turn that dog loose, and you had to go get him off a tree somewhere. But me and him, we hunted the black and tan and the walker. And one night we was hunting together, and I remember my mom always had a strict curfew on me, and you know how a lot of them dogs was back then, especially this walker dog I got. Like if you turned him loose and he got out of pocket, or you couldn't get him, you just laid your shirt down. The next morning you drove there and he'd be laying on it. Well, I did that night, and when I come back, he wasn't there, and I never saw him. And that was a real coon treeing dog. The only thing I didn't like about him was he wouldn't just go hunting. I hadn't had a hound yet that just you cut him loose. And the black and tan my buddy had was that way, and but now he'd tree every coon he smelled. But yeah, I kind of after he died, I didn't come for money, and my mom and dad really didn't believe in drop. A good hound costs a lot of money, and so I sort of, I guess you could say, gave it a breather, and I did get a black and tan pup. It wasn't off of that dog. It was a buddy that I was hunting with. He had a female, and he bred her to something. That dog, I tell you, that dog was off of Bruce Gilliam's line. I know it went back to it. I think he was off of Hobo, which was that Hobo's horse's daddy, and I think he was Fiddler bred on the bottom, but on his mom's side, but we hunted. I hunted that pup, and he was just sort of a slow starter. I remember when he was young, he did tree some possums and a coon occasionally, but when he got about 11 or 12 months old, I sort of, I got a scholarship, to go play baseball, and I was real big into athletics, and I remember my coach in high school telling me, my future was in baseball, not in coon hunting. So I sort of give it a rest, and I sort of got into deer hunting, I got into deer hunting hard or heavy, so I just stopped hunting that dog. And anyway, I pretty much quit there for a year or two, and he just become kind of a pet, around the house. My mom loved him. He would just sit on the porch, and I remember one night I got home, we were right in the middle of baseball season, and I've always been good with my dogs. I remember I did train him. He would lay on the porch, and I remember I got home one night, and I got him and sort of sent him in the woods to go hunting, and I come back out about 20 or 30 minutes later, and I could hear him down there treed, and I went down there, and he had a coon, and this dog's probably over 2 years old, at that time. And anyways, I wound up training him. Started hunting him, and he become a real coon treer. I loved that dog. He had he had a real big, heavy ball mouth on the ground, kind of ball and scream mouth, and I treated a lot of coons with that dog. And then he died of blasto. I believe it was my junior year of college. But anyway, I love it because he was just kind of a balanced pleasure dog, if that makes sense. He opened good on the ground. He had a real good locate. He was real good to have a coon. But yeah, he died of blasto. So then I was I was back to square one after that.
Yeah, yeah. My black and tan that I had, he was fiddler bred, a little bit on the top and the bottom. But so you were in college, junior in college. Your only dog. I guess that was the only dog you had at the time, the only hound.
Oh yeah. He was the onlyest hound I had, and I didn't have no money. And like I said, my mom and dad they always provided for me. I never done without a meal or a roof over my head or anything, but they just weren't gonna drop the money, and I couldn't work because I mean I could come home and work through the summer, but I had to save that money, to be able to get through the year through college. I'd work all summer and I'd have to save that way I could eat and have spending money while I was going to college. So and that's when and then my mom for Christmas bought me a Walker puppy. So as you can see, I kind of just jumping around, just whatever I could get my hands. So there was a guy that there was a real good line of Walker dog that was kind of in my town. It went back to there was a guy that had a female directly off a nocturnal nailer. This is back in the early 2000s. It's hard to believe it's been over 20 years ago, but and there was he had her, and then I don't know if you remember a dog called Tricolor Jack. He was off of that Tricolor Tom Tom that won, I believe Tom Tom won the World Hunt back in 1993. But Jack was directly off of Tom Tom, and they bred a dog off of Jack to that nailer female. And that's what this dog right here was out of. And that's the first dog I ever, kind of got into competition hunting with. And he was just different. It was right then I could see Coonhouse kind of changing, easier to train. I remember I raised that puppy, and everywhere, it was a path of destruction everywhere that dog went. He was just tearing up, always into something. And I remember, I got him there at Christmas, and my mom raised him. And then when the baseball season was over with and the summer kicked in, I remember I got to leave home because I wound up having to have surgery on my elbow. I had bone spurs in my elbow, and I got home. I got to come home early. He wasn't but about 6.5 months old. And the first night I ever took him, we went out of a boat. Me and my buddy, we were just going to go down a boat, and he didn't have nothing to do. So we took him out in a boat, and I remember I seen a coon on the side of the riverbank. And I said, well, pull that boat up there and let's let him out, see what he'll do. And I let that pup out, and he sort of got up, running around, and I seen him stick his nose on the ground. And I seen him, he followed that track out there, and I kind of looked through the woods a little bit, and I could see him out there about 50 yards away, just standing on a tree, whimpering up it. And so I remember I walked up, I shined my light, and I could see that coon looking at me, and I started petting on him. Well, as soon as I started petting on him, he locked down, and I believe he'd still be there. I mean, I'm exaggerating that a little bit, but that dog loved the tree. And I had never had anything like that. I knew he was different, than anything that I'd ever had. And anyways, but yeah, that was I remember I kind of trained that dog, and or I did train him. I hunted him, and it wasn't easy. That was the first dog I ever had that all these other hounds I'd ever had. They had coons when they treed. They weren't kind of like, as you hear the old dogs, they kind of weren't enough tree dog to miss. Well, this thing was just born a tree dog. He'd tree anything, get after anything, and climb from him. And I sort of had to, get on to him for, missing and stuff at night because he wanted a tree and he really didn't know how to run a track. But anyways, he got about a year old. He was probably a little bit over a year, and they had a hunt up at Arab. And I've always had beginner's luck at everything at my hometown. And they said, you want to go take that pup and put him in that hunt. And I thought, well, he ain't ready. And the guy looked at me and he said, if you waiting on one to get ready, you'll never go. That kind of stuck with me. So anyways, I entered that dog in that hunt, and I remember before the hunt I was nervous. I'd never done that before. And I've always been a preparer. Like, I was always an athlete, and I always try to make sure I was prepared for everything. And it's just, a dog is, you can put it, but you're just kind of relying on them. And I remember walking up to, I don't know if you know Bruce Gillum, but it's the same stuff. He was at that hunt, and I talked to him before, old Black Tans. I said, man, I've never done this before. You got any advice to him? And he said, don't draw minus. He said, you'll be surprised if you go out here and you just lay back, don't get in a hurry. Just try your best not to draw any minus, and just call your dog for what it does. And anyways, I went out there. It was an old kind of a rough winter night. I think it was 25 dogs entered, and I know I won the registered first hunt I ever put him in. I think he was the only dog to tree a coon. He got off by himself. That was another thing that was different about him. He was the first dog I ever had it split treed all the time. And he did get off by himself and treat a coon, and that pretty much won the hunt. And just like when that blue tick treed the first coon, for that, it was that feeling of going up there thinking, what am I doing? And then before I knew it, I'd won the hunt. So it sort of gave me that addiction to to coon hunt. And I wound up making him a night champion. I put a few wins toward grands on him, but I didn't have a lot of money, and I just loved the coon hunt at the time. And then I bred him, and out of the first litter, I think there was 2 grand nights that come out of that, and that sort of, that was another thing is to do that with a pup and then breed them, and then be able to take those and go win with them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one that you take and you raise on your own and train and take and win, I think that means a whole lot more to, it does to me anyway, than one that I've bought and, he's maybe needs some work or whatever. I do like the idea of taking one from a puppy and, all the way.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a different feeling. And then, when you go to train them and you start to see those, characteristics of their, especially if you know their mom too, the bottom side, and you breed them, and you get to see a lot of the traits from your. You get to see, the traits that a lot of their traits, and then all of a sudden that's when you realize when breeding, you go, well, where did this come from? That's why breeding's so hard. It's an imperfect science, but yeah, it is. It's a lot different when you take your own pup and then train it and then breed it and then go win with them. I completely agree with you on that.
So out of that litter, when you bred him, I guess you got something that you kept out of that and started hunting, or was you still hunting him, or where'd you go from there?
Well, it was, so I give one of those puppies to a guy that drew that Walker dog that hunted English dogs, and he loved that hound. He said, and I remember him always bragging on him. So it was a guy down the road, the breeder that I bought that dog from. He bred a female to him, and I can't remember if I give him that pup or he bought that pup, but yeah, he bought a dog. I believe he called him Rex, and I called him a few months. You know how it is. I kept numbers, or I tried to find out who got all those pups. And I called him up one day, and he said, well, that pup, he ain't doing much. I showed him a coon. He was about 6 months old. And, yeah, I just sort of wrote it off. And then I thought, well, I'll call him back in a few months. I called him back a couple months later, and he just, he went on and on about that pup was treeing coons and doing real good. And he wound up winning with that dog. At one time, I think that was back when the Purina race was a good deal. I think early on, he done some winning. I can't remember what big hunt he went to, but he went to a bigger hunt and scored real good with him and got in. And he wound up getting killed in a car wreck, and that was a real sad, because me and him, we talked all the time over the phone, and it was his hunting buddy. His name was Farrell Hammett. I don't know if you ever heard of him. I think Farrell. They lived out. It was fairly close to me. I could be to their houses in about an hour. But you remember a dog named Red River Dan, an English dog?
Yeah, that name does sound familiar.
Yeah, well, anyhow, Farrell lived over there by MC Blackman, and Farrell wound up with the dog. Now, Farrell hunted English. You go over to his house, he had 20 or 30 English, and he had that dog, and he had English dogs out there. To be honest with you, at the time, I'd never seen one I liked. I'd never hunted with an English dog that I liked, and I walked over there, and I said, yeah, well, one of these things tree a coon, because I don't know if I'd ever seen one tree a coon. He said, about everything on my yard a tree a coon. But anyways, he kept Rex, and he hunted with that old dog of mine. He liked him so much, he decided to crossbreed him. He said, I want to breed a female to your Walker. So Farrell wound up with the Walker dog, and he bred to my old dog. I called him Doc, and but yeah, he had a pile of English. I don't know if you ever remember Big Oak Jim, that three-legged English dog. He was off of Big Oak Pepper. I know a lot about English dogs now, because I've been hunting them off and on for a while. But he bred an English female off of that, and at any rate, I got another dog off of that litter, off of my Walker dog. He wound up. I got him and started and trained him, I made him a night champion. I remember that. There was something about him. I remember what it was. He would, if it ever got a little touch, which is right the opposite of his daddy would stay tree with the devil. But if it ever got a little bit, raunchy at a tree, or dog just scream at him or whatever, he's allowed to just pack up and leave. And so I can't. David Adams wound up with that dog, and they bred him a time or two. As he got older, he just got out of that, where he would leave, and David wound up finishing him out the Grand. And I remember I drew him one night, and this wasn't that long ago, probably 8-9 years ago. I mean, I don't know if it was that hybrid vigor in him, but he just kept treeing coons, and I mean, he just kept getting better with age. He was very intelligent. That dog would ride in the front seat of the truck with me. I could call him across the Tennessee River treat. I'd done it before. He was just a real pleasure for a dog to hunt. But he had that hole, and I wound up selling him. And David Adams wound up getting him. But that's kind of what got me into hunting. English dogs a little bit. Was that dog? His name was Luke, is what we called him.
Okay, so did you stick with English dogs? I assume you did somewhat after that, or did you still kind of go back and forth?
I sort of went back and forth. Let me see here. After him, that's about the time I started my business, and I'm one of those, like, I can't focus on 2 or 3 different things. Like, if I got something, I remember when I started this business, for about a year to year and a half, I really didn't hunt much. And that might have been the reason why I got rid of the dog. It's been a long time ago, and I can't really think. But the next dog I bought after him, because I remember going to a lot of these hunts, and I'd hunted with some of Farrell's dogs. And I remember going to a lot of these hunts, and I'm like, well, if this is the best, I mean, these Walker dogs, I didn't like them. I was just sitting there thinking, I thought some of the English dogs I hunted with that Farrell had was as good, if not better, than some of the, a lot of the Walkers that I was drawing. So I wound up, I didn't have time to even though I love to train and I think I'm pretty good at it. I just didn't have the time anymore. With my wife had just given birth to her first child. I had a business I was running, so I just the good thing at this point was I was making money, so I could I could buy a dog, and I wound up buying a dog called Mouse or Mighty Mouse. Don't know if you remember her, but Doug Stamper and Ron Beck used to have her back when they was running that Pit Hole Creek Kennels. Mouse was an English female. She won the Indiana state race, which was a big deal. The state races back then, it was a different time than it is now. But she was a gold champion, and she was older, and I bought her, from Ron, and I just wanted something I could carry, to these local hunts, and I wanted to sort of get into PKC hunting. So she was a dog I got, and it gave me a goal. She wasn't a gold champion at the time. I think she'd won about 91 or 9,200. And I thought, well, they're having some PKC hunts around. And, he told me that she was still in really good health. And, he had won some UKC hunts with her, like the qualifier for the zone. And he said, yeah, if you just want something to take the local hunt, something that's older and trained, he said she's still in really good health. So I wound up buying her. And we did, wind up making her a gold champion. Matter of fact, I got into that was the first pro hunt I ever went to, as I took her to, and I had a little Walker female at the time that I bought. So I was just buying stuff that could suit me, but I really did. I liked that. I really liked that Mouse female. She was a real coon treer.
That's what I was gonna ask you a while ago. So most of those hunts, I guess, up until that Mouse female, you were just hunting UKC hunts, or was you dabbling in both?
Oh, it just well, there was really no need in me hunting Mouse. I guess I could have to get to qualify her for the World Hunt or whatever. But she was a Grand Night, and but yeah, they were having local PKC hunts. There was a lot of clubs around here that was having, and that's when I got brought to. That's when I got introduced to wipeout dogs, and that was in. That was probably in about 2011, and but yeah, that was that was the main reason I got her, was to have something to take to those hunts, around locally.
Yeah. So you got her, and you're starting to dabble in PKC. What happened next?
So I got her, and after I made her a gold, I wound up giving her back to Bud Hood. I don't know if you know who Bud Hood is, but he owned another little gold champion English female, and he was the one that sold Ron Beck and Doug Stamper Mouse. And so after I made her a gold champion, I give her to him because she was really, I think she was getting, she was 10 and a half, 11 years old, and Bud took her back, and but while we were hunting together, before I got rid of Mouse, my business partner got a blue tick. Me and my business partner coon hunted together, and he got a blue. And he had always been a walker man and hunted. He had hunted, walkers and hunted a lot of the big hunts. And he somehow or another wound up with a blue tick, and it's American blue tick. It wasn't an English blue tick, and anyways, he loved that dog. They done a lot of winning with. This one month, the first month they got him, they run him in PKC, and he should have got a truck ticket. The only reason he didn't is because they didn't know this at the time. He was still a pup, so he couldn't get a senior ticket. But they got on a tear that month with that blue tick and really went to win. And there was a big thing on the internet. I remember people asking questions, why he wasn't able to get a ticket, and they didn't even realize that till about the end, but to the end of that month, because then they, somebody told them, hey, you're not going to be able to get a ticket with this dog because he's still pup age and he's not senior. And so anyways, that's how it worked out. They run. The dog should have got a truck ticket, but he didn't. But, that was, I'm trying to, I can't remember exactly how that dog was bred, but is there a guy is it Indiana named Shepherd? Something Shepherd, I think. but maybe I'm off. I'm trying to think of what line that blue tick was off of, but he was definitely a trailing type dog. I mean, he just, he almost straddled the track, but he was real good. Like if dogs are slick, you get into a tree, and if he was split treed, he'd have a coon every single time. When them, dogs just missed or whatever. But yeah, he would, you'd get there and he'd always have a coon. But yeah, so sorry, I didn't mean to get, that was kind of long-winded, but that dog had a problem. Yeah, that dog developed a problem with armadillos down here. He you'd think he'd have him broke, and anyways, my business partner kind of got fed up with him with the armadillo. It was armadillos and possums. He was just extremely hard to break off of them, and he wound up selling him. And I sort of gotten in, and I liked that, and he wanted something different too. So we were sitting there eating one day. And he said, I just looked over and I said, boy, I wish we could find us something, because I've been some of the pro hunts. And I like to be different. I mean, where it's crossbreed, English dog, I want something that's different. And when I go, that excited me because, you go to those pro hunts, that was a big deal back then. I mean, you were going to draw the best dogs, and there was a $300, that don't sound like much now. Back then, that was a lot for people. And I remember we were sitting there eating lunch one day, and he said, me and him got talking. I was like, boy, I sure wish we could find us like a blue tick, because that's the prettiest dog to me is a blue tick. And I said, I wish we could find a blue tick and in a pro hunt style dog, and I remember the people that wanted the pro hunt style dog was the big hunter dog that left hard, was going to get along, unless it was a coon right out of the truck and was accurate. I mean, it just makes it easy to win when a dog's got a coon, whenever you get into the tree. And we sort of put that on paper as in like, all right, I'm fixing to find us a blue tick. It's a big hunter. It's going to be a lot. He wanted a dead loner, one that wouldn't cover under no circumstances, and it had to be deadly accurate, and one that would recast. And but anyways, yeah, we'd put that on. And let me tell you something. That's hard to find, even today. It's just, 10, 11, 12 years ago. I mean, I think they're a little bit easier to find today because people, they got better training devices, and people have bred more for that. But that's hard to find over one hide in any color of hound.
Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, that's where we led into the search for that, and that's kind of how I. But anyhow, he wanted an American blue tick, and I bet I made 250 phone calls, had hunts set up, and then I'd call a few people because before I went to go drive 5-6 hours try a dog, I'd call a few people and they'd say, hey, I mean that dog's a good hound, but he ain't. If that guy told you he's what you just described, just come see for yourself. And it was just, it was a lot. Like I said, I called every breeder in the blue ticks and everything else, and just couldn't. It went try dogs. It just, they weren't going to compete in the pro circuit. Not to say they couldn't win some casts. They were good hounds, but they weren't. That it's very, very hard to find. It ain't hard to find a hound, even if you go look today. If you're looking for that over one hide, the three things you need: one that hunts big, and I mean, a hustle, and one that that's going to be alone. Unless it's right out of the truck, I'll give them that. Like if you, but a really independent dog and then a really accurate dog, it's very, very hard to find that over one hide. And I wasn't having no luck, calling blue tick people. So one day I called, I was just making my calls, and I called Seth Ish. And I said, Seth, because I talked to Seth over the phone, a few times, being an English dog, I was looking for something. I said, Seth, I'll tell you what I'm looking for. And I said, I'm not sure he's going to tell me what everybody else is saying. Good luck finding that. I said, I'm looking for a big wild hunter. It's going to be alone every time. That won't cover under no circumstances. I mean, that was a deal that my business partner won't cover under no circumstances, and one that, they're having pelts every time and a recut. And I said, and I'm looking for that in American blue tick. I said, do you know anywhere? He said, no. He said, I don't know where American blue tick like that is. He said, I know where an English blue tick just like what you described is. And I said, well, what dog is that? He said, you remember that dot female that I had over here that I thought? I said, yeah, I remember seeing, you having that on the internet. And he started telling me about it. And I said, and I just remember sitting there thinking, well, why would somebody sell an animal? So I asked him that. I said, well, why would you sell an animal like that? And he said, Nick, he said, out here where we live, he said, he said, that dog will put you in strange territory. If you ain't ready to go hunt, don't cut her loose. And he just said she was getting in, we were having to go get her out of people's backyards, at the middle of the night. And he said, my brother and dad just, if memory serves me right, that's pretty much what he had told me, that she was, getting them in trouble, getting on posted land, treating in people's backyards, just real hard to contain. But that's where he sort of did lead me into, where I could go find her. And so I tracked her down, and a guy by the name of Keith Sutmiller had her. I don't know if you ever heard of Keith Sutmiller.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I called Keith, and Keith had just gotten her. I don't think Seth has a lot of possums and stuff. She was still pretty young. I don't think she had turned 3 years old. And I started talking to Keith, and Keith was just like, it's the most independent. He said, I've never seen a hound as independent as this one. He had her a few weeks, and he pretty much is describing her just like Seth. And I mean, you can tell when you get on the phone about, with somebody, whether they're just, but he told me what she needed a little work on, and I asked him to price her. Well, he wouldn't price her. He just, and anyhow, I'd call him every now and again, just saying, he was just like, man, this dog's really starting to look sharp. And, I put her in a hunt the other night and she won. And I called him about a week later. I just, we were just visiting. I put her in another hunt. She won. And I think he won about seven casts in a row with her, 7 or 8 casts in a row. And, I was telling Ben, and I was like, he won't ever, we won't ever sell her. Well, I knew they were having a pro hunt, out there in his area. And that, that coming up weekend after I talked with him the week before, and I thought, I wonder if he'll put her in that pro hunt. And anyways, I looked on the internet, and I saw where he had entered her in it. And then at the end of the night that night, I looked on there, and I thought, I'm just being honest with you. I was hoping he wouldn't, she wouldn't win, because I knew that's going to raise her stock price up even more. She went out there and done real well. Well, she had won, and then the very next night, it was the semifinals, and she won there. So there she was on the same page, with I remember it was $1,000 bill Jessie Jane, at another dog, and then she was on there, and they wound up splitting it. And but anyways, of course I knew that, he wasn't going to sell. So I called him. He said, yeah, everybody in this area is trying to buy her. And so my business partner was like, how crazy you want to get. And, as far as, anything could be bought, especially a dog. And so I made him a really good offer on her. And he said, well, that's a really good offer. But he said, I'm going to hang on to her. And so about a month went by, and I just thought one day, I said, I just called him, and I said, hey, can you put a price tag on that dog? And he told me this. I think he had a bad hunt with her the night before. She had, just the dogs come out in them, and I think she'd almost gotten run over, but she didn't. And I called him, and he put a price on her. And anyways, I wasn't going to, without, but when you go to try the dog, what do you do? You can't just go try a dog looking for something wrong with them, and you'll never buy one. If you, but yeah, we went and tried her, and she didn't really look that great the night that we tried her, but she didn't look bad. But what made me buy her, or us want her, is she treated a coon and she split from a dog. And my business partner actually went out there to try. I had something going on that weekend with family, so he went out there and I said, tell him to take that dog. She, they treed right out of the truck and Dot had split treed, I don't know, 100 yards. I said, tell Keith to walk her about halfway to that dog and unsnap her, on a recut. And he done that and he cut her. And I said, all right, stay on the phone. I don't even think it was 2.5, 3 minutes. And I said, what did that dog do? And he said, oh, she's gone. I said, how far is she? And he said, man, she's 600-700 yards. I said, in like 3 minutes? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, let's buy her, So we bought her, and anyways, after we bought her, she went treat a possum. she went like almost a mile treat a possum. But anyways, yeah, it just to find what she did was just about impossible to find. Anything that would do what she did, to cut her that close to a dog in that amount of time. She had already blew out of that. Got out of the country and got out of there and got treed.
Yeah. Okay. So you got Dot. She's a big hunting dog, like you like. And so what did you do with Dot?
Well, we started hunting her, and I ain't gonna lie. That when we first got her, and Keith told us that, he said she needs, she was still treating possums. That was why. And she would recut, but she was having a little downtime on the recut. Like as in, when you would cut her, she wouldn't go cover a dog, and she wasn't going to go around a dog. But a lot of times you'd cut her, and she would just sort of hang out of range 4 or 5 minutes, and all of a sudden she'd just disappear. Well, you in a hunt, that 4 or 5 minutes can mean the difference. I mean, you know what I mean? So the first thing is I won't say we ever completely broke her. We had her one time go, I guess, 2 years without treating a possum, I don't think, but we finally did get her broke off in possums to where she did get one. It was only once a year, once every blue moon. But when we first started running her, it was the possum. It's like we'd have a cast one, she'd tree one. So I just said I'm gonna stop it. So I just pleasure hunted her for a while, and we got her broke at that. And I guess when the race started, at about 6-7 months after we got her, we went to run, and I mean we got especially there in late winter, early through spring, we just got on a tear. We just went everywhere that we took that dog. Every weekend we was getting her picture taken. She was really looking sharp, and at any rate, we got her truck ticket on her, which qualified her for, she had as a matter of fact, at that time she was winning the national race, national female race, state race, and breed race. We was winning all the races.
I had some guys tell me whenever I told them who I was interviewing, and this dog's name come up, and they said that was a cast winning little heifer.
Yeah, she would. When she was on, you didn't want to. I mean, she was a little bit. A lot of people thought Dot was tight mouth, and that was completely untrue. To be the style English dog she was, I never saw one that would open as much as she did on the ground. I'm not saying I didn't see, but every English dog I ever seen was a big hunter, big motor, accurate. I hadn't seen a lot of hounds like that anyways, like she was. It is good, but she would win them casts, and but she had one big hole. She struck all over the board, but it seemed like that was her biggest hole was especially once you got into the bigger rounds where it really meant, where that strike's a big deal. It just seemed like she'd always catch a quarter or 50.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was tough to beat, and she had a time of year. It was about late winter through spring, and I remember thinking to myself, they have a world hunt tomorrow. At the end of that April when we won that truck ticket, I really felt like I had a dog really, really capable of winning it. I mean, she was. I don't even think at the end of April, I don't even think she was scored on a tree that entire month that wasn't plussed. Was never on a tree. She scored that. It's down here in the south where coons were thin. And me and Dylan had figured it up. I mean, she'd scored 2,500, 3,000 plus. I mean, if it was a minus, it wasn't. I don't even know if she even drew any minus. She was operating like a machine. I've never had a dog that got on a roll like she did that month.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually just sold my male English dog because he was treeing possums, and me and about 7 or 8 other guys tried to break him, and he couldn't be broke. But he hustled. He didn't just blow the country, but the dog hustled really hard, and he was kind of like what you were saying with her. He was real inconsistent with his strike. You know, he might be first strike. You know, this week, and next week he might not open his mouth till he was treed.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, she was independent. A lot of people don't. I mean, a lot of people say, well, I've heard people make this statement to me. Well, you need a dog that's going to get a piece of another person's coon every now and again. Well, if you got dog power, I don't really believe that. I mean, I'm not gonna say I never saw her cover a dog, or, you know, the dog come out in her, but even on a coon, like if you cut loose right on a hot coon right out of the truck, she got better about this as she got age. She wouldn't, a lot of times she would just go the other direction. It's like she didn't even want to be with those dogs. And then, you know, you're obviously you're going to take a last strike on that, you know, but yeah, I know what you're saying. It's she was real inconsistent, you know, on what you were going to get with that strike. She was the one. It's like I said, she was probably a lower to middle range strike dog, but she, you know, we did catch some first and second strikes with her, you know, quite often too.
Yeah. So you got Dot, and you hunting her. Are you breeding her any, or you trying to reproduce her?
Yeah, so it's at about that time, you know, we're winning all those races, and I'm just sitting there going, when you got a hound like that, what's the main, especially one that hunts like her. I mean, she had done escape death. I mean, you know, big wild hunter like that often winds up 2 miles. You know, if I got dry hold, I mean, we might get her off trail for 2 miles from where we cut her. So I just thought, well, I got to breed her. So, you know, we bred her, we pulled out of those races and all that and just decided to breed her, and we bred her to Hard Time Awesome at that point. And we had, it wound up being a pretty good cross. That's the cross. I don't know if you ever heard of Funky Cole Medina, the dog, that Hard Time Repo dog.
Yeah.
She produced him, the one that placed second at the Super Stakes. There was the Three Rivers Trudy, and then there was a dog called Awesome.com. I think they made a night champion, a PKC champion off of him. And then, what's that guy? Dennis Fortenberry out in Louisiana had a female that he done a good bit of winning in PKC and UKC with. And there was a male called Hard Time Bushwhacker. He placed in the top 100 of the world there. All them dogs was really winning, then everybody just sort of stopped hunting them, you know, and we either went to breeding them or just, you know, put titles on them and just pleasure hunting them, you know. But yeah, it was it wound up being a good cross. We got Breeder of the Year in PKC. Dot wound up, you know, making the UKC reproducers list, you know, off that cross. But I didn't get no. I mean, I hunted with a lot of them. You know, there was a few of them I didn't that made titles, but I just never saw one that, you know, was as special as she was, you know, out of that cross.
Yeah. So you got Dot, you bred her to Awesome, and I guess you're still hunting her at this time. Are you hunting something that will put that same fire that she's got in her in the puppies, or how do you go from there?
Well, so yeah, I went and I won right after that. That was a rough practice. You know, so I think she wound up having 13 pups off that litter, and I went after she finally got done with that. You know, I went and I won the breed hunt with her. I actually won the breed hunt with her 2 years in a row, and I get to tell everybody something. I had to win a breed hunt 2 years in a row and beat a world champion in the final cast. And so I drew John the Baptist, and then Awesome. Awesome was the first year in John the Baptist. and I'm not saying it in a bragging way or meaning, because Awesome was out of his prime. And it was a rough night, and Awesome didn't look bad. I just, you know how that goes. I commended Jason for even, you know, you win a world hunt, there ain't one way to go, you know, after that. But he was still hunting those dogs, you know, even after they won the world. But yeah, I beat, you know, I won that. I get to say that I won a breed hunt 2 years in a row and had to beat a world champion in the final cast of both of them. I wasn't even hunting a Walker dog. But yeah, that's a pretty unique statement you could make. But yeah, so we're winning. You know, we're doing a lot, but it was just like every time we get deep in them hunts, I was getting beat by one of them wipeout dogs. You know, the better striker, they'd tree a coon closer than me, you know, everybody, a lot of Walker men, a lot of them wipeout guys, they even called her around. They called her Wipeout Dot. That's because they, you know, them wipeout dogs, that's what they breed for, is a big hunting, big gear, get by themselves. They're way more of a trailing type dog, and I love for a dog to bark on track. I mean, I like a trailing type dog. You know, it's just what I like. I'm not saying everybody else should have it, but I remember I drew a bunch of them, but I drew Wipeout Threesome one night when he was a young hound, and I remember he was winning like crazy, and I drew him in a hunt, and I mean, he just, as they say, wiped the cast out. He just drilled us that night. Just made everything in the cast look stupid. And that was the only night I hunted with him. Now, Dylan drew him several other nights, and we actually beat him, you know, a few nights. But that's where I kind of become, you know, good friends with Barry Kitty, and we was talking, and he said, Nick, if you know, he just said, I really believe if you breed her to a fine wipeout stud, he said, you get a winner off of it, you know. And so that's when I made I bred her to Zeb 3. I saw, you know, I didn't hunt with Zeb. I know you asked me that one time. I didn't hunt with Zeb 3, but I hunted with him because he was reproducing Zeb 3 in his puppies. And, you know, real similar to like what he was doing. And it's, you know, a lot of people, you know, I tell them it's one thing, Zeb 3 was reproducing at an elite level like we had never seen before. I mean, just stop and think about how many elite dogs that you've seen that reproduced them. And if you think of them, they're just about all wipeout dogs. Not all of them, I'm not, you know, but a high majority of them was. And, you know, he was reproducing at the time, and they didn't know at that time how well he was doing. So I bred her to Zeb 3, and she did not take. So, and she only come in heat once a year. And, you know, everybody was calling me, you know, what are you going to breed her to? Where are you going? Well, I don't know yet. Well, you going to breed her to, you know, to Vapor. And I was like, yeah, I may breed her to Vapor. You know, I was sort of making my mind up after that, and I just made the executive decision, you know, to breed to Threesome, because Zeb 3 had done died, and I wanted to do a live breeding, and we knew those guys real well, and we felt like, you know, we can. You know, it's very, very hard when you breed, if you got something like that, to get what I wanted, more of a trailing type dog, number one. And it's very hard to keep what you got and go breed to something and get what you have. So it's hard to keep, if you got something that's nice and you recognize like, hey, I want to get something, it's very hard to keep what all you got but go get what you want. Does that make sense? And I felt that was the only way I could, you know, I could do that, because it's like I said before, in my opinion, a reproducer, you know, we go by a lot of things, a reproducer is a hound that throws unique traits that hounds or breeds are lacking. And I think that the wipeout line was crossing so well, it was just making everything better, because they had bred for one, you know what I mean? They had bred for other traits, and Barry sort of bred it for a different style of dog, you know, more of a running type dog. And when they crossed them together back in, it just made for a better hound. And he was reproducing on everything. And I didn't know Threesome would reproduce, but you know, I'd seen him in action. I love what he does. You know, he'd won the world. I'm pretty sure he had just won the world when we bred to him, but yeah, we bred the Threesome, and I think she had 7 or 8 puppies.
Okay, and
But
so out of uh, out of that litter, did you find something you could work with, or did you have to go somewhere else?
yeah. So after Dot died, or was getting too old. When she hit about 8, 9 years old, she sort of slowed down. Me and Dylan quit hunting her. And I mean, I went, and that was hard. I mean, I was buying walker dogs at big prices and everything, and just you can't hunt a walker dog if you owned I mean, I'm talking about dogs that a lot of these dogs people's probably heard of, and they just wasn't as nice as she was. I'm just not in my opinion, and so I did breed her, and but these pups are still young, and the females, there was one female in that litter that done, that done a lot of, or done some win. I think she placed third at the UKC state hunt. But well, that's one thing about Dot's pups was they were really, really slow to mature. Even those ones off of her and Awesome. I mean, a lot of them, you couldn't give up on them at a year old if they wouldn't go and hunt, because 6, 7, 8 months later, you may be getting them off trees 2 miles away. She just produced a slower maturing type pup, or off that cross between her and Awesome. So I was sort of keeping up with what they've done, and I sold one of them to there was 2 males in the litter that had that style. I mean, you could just tell by listening to them post on Facebook. There was a blue male, and then there was the other one, that Colton Ingram, which we'll talk about here in a minute, that we sold him. He was just 18 years old when he bought that pup. But yeah, there was 2 of them in there that had what you needed, and the other one, the one, I can't remember that guy's name that got it. It wound up getting killed, I think, when it was a little bit over 1 year old. But it was always going to be alone. Had coons. I think it was real junky. It was typical wipeout. It would run, anything would run from him and then fall off on a coon. But I'd heard that this dog right here was pretty good, and at that time I just bought my old business partner out to one at me, and so my main focus was to put processes and stuff like that in my business. So I really wasn't coon hunting that much. I had a Walker female over here, one of the best coon dogs I've ever owned, that I would just pleasure hunt. And one night I turned on the World Hunt. I'd always do that just to see, and I saw he'd entered that dog, and I remember I got up that morning, was just looking through to see and then he had gotten in, and so I waited there toward the end of the week, and I'd never met him or talked to him or anything, and then all of a sudden I look, and he won. Next thing I know, he's in the top 20, and he got beat after that. He got beat by the dog that won the World Hunt. What dog? It was that dog off of Mason, Goose. It was the year Goose won it. But yeah, he got beat by him. So I called him, and anyways, after I called him up, and anyways wound up buying half interest in him, and I got him out here, and he took some. He's a little bit of a blend between his mom and his daddy. I mean, both, Threesome and Dot had a very, very similar style. They were both big hunters. They was going to be alone, and they was really, about as good as you was going to find to have them pelts when you got to them. But yeah, so it's hard to say, compare. But yeah, he's a little bit more of a trailing style dog, so I did get that, than his mama was. He, during the winter, he's a lot better than his mama was. Trailing up old bad tracks and treeing them like an old classic, old timey, or as they say, the years ago wipeout dog.
Yeah. So real quick before you tell us about this dog a little more, this pup you bought half interest in with Colton. So you bred Dot to Awesome. You tried to breed her to Zeb and Threesome. Is that the only 3 times you bred her?
No, I bred her to Vapor. And
okay.
It's not even fair to compare that, because I bred her to Vapor toward the very end, or after I bred her to Threesome, but she had 7, 8 pups and only 2 of them lived. So it's really hard to get. Now the one of the male out of that litter was young and won a few. I mean, he had actually made some Final Fours, and I think the female of that litter, I think she tree coons. I don't know if they made her a night champion or anything like that, but I know she had a place or two on her. But the male wound up getting, I think he wound up dying, or he got killed or something somehow. But I talked to that guy that had him. He said he was he was a real coon treer, and was really making the kind. But yeah, it's really, I did breed her to vapor, and it's just real. I can't really, because I've made crosses where you get 8 pups. You get 8. You're lucky if two of them make really, really good hounds. But all I can tell you is it wasn't bad and it wasn't great, but they're the 2 that made it out of that cross were, would go hunting in tree coons.
Yeah, I was just curious. You mentioned those other few dogs there, and I didn't know if you'd bred her any more, or if it was just those few.
Yeah, it was just hard. She'd only come in heat once a year, and every time you'd want to breed her, then you got to think about, well, if we breed her, we can't go to that hunt there. That's and I really wish I could go back on it, and I'd have made. I'd have tried to make more crosses on her, because she did reproduce, pretty well. The D dog, he wound up making platinum. I think, I don't know this for certain, but I'm pretty sure she's the only platinum champion English female to reproduce one. But yeah, I mean, and then she also, the repo, even though she wasn't the direct. I sold Medina. I had her over here. I sold her to Brad McDaniels. I just wanted her, how line breeding goes. I thought, because Dot and the Crow Dog were both off of Hoss, and Hoss is one of the very few hounds that wasn't a walker to reproduce 2 platinum champions. And Brad made the Uncle to Neeks cross, and that's what produced Repo, which was a reserve Super Stakes. I think he got in at the Super Stakes every year except for 1 year, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he.
Real quick, while you're talking about pedigrees, tell us what Dot's out of. I'm sure most people probably know, but just in case they don't.
Yeah, Dot was off of Red Ruby Hard Time Hoss, and a female called Isha's Stinging Bee. And I think Seth and a few other people told me she was real heavy junior bred. Now, you got junior breeding is way before my time of understanding any English dogs. So I don't know a lot about the junior line. And Dot, one of the things about her was, another thing was a stylish tree dog. Dot was some more tree dog, and she would stand on a tree just like a statue and hardly wouldn't even move a toenail, and just she was a real stylish, classy tree dog. And I think Hoss, reproduced that in a lot of his pups. Good stylish tree dogs, because boy, she was.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to your. Well, so obviously, you had Dot. She's a big hunting dog. You made this crossbred litter here with her, and you're looking to try to reproduce some of that with her. Why just that one crossbred litter? Why not try multiple, maybe different style? What was your point there?
Well, I've actually got to do what I wanted to do, and I was looking for a grand pup to Dot, so I called around, and then this guy just messaged me, and he said one of them off of Dot and Awesome, is for sale on the internet, and that's when I met what's his name, Hatton. The guy, I think you had him on here, Lee Hatton.
Yeah, Mr. Lee Hatton.
Mr. Lee Hatton, yeah. He had Trudy, which was one of those dogs, off of that. And I had Trudy over here, and me and Lee talked about, and I'm not going to say anything negative about a dog, but Trudy, everything that Trudy really had a problem with, it would have made her like the dog off of Awesome and Threesome is extremely strong, and thought, well, because I've always wanted to, that's what I was thinking is I was going to line breed it back. Just talking to good, I've had a lot of conversations with Barry Kitty. That's how he built that line of hounds, these guys, and a lot of other and English people, just a lot of people talk on the phone, about line breeding. And him being such a hybrid bigger, I thought even though it's half brother, half sister, I'm going to give it a shot. So I do have, we got her bred twice. We bred Trudy, to D, and I think it was a couple weeks ago. So then she's gonna have them. They'll be here in about 6 weeks, but I think that's going to be interesting. We bred him. Go ahead. Sorry, was you about to ask something?
No, you go ahead. You bred him. You bred him what?
Yeah, we've bred him to a couple different Walker females. I actually, I'm a big fan when you outcross like that, you need to go back in the line, and I bred him to a Zeb 3 female, and there are several of those puppies in the litter that I can't, they won't even talk about buying them. I mean, they're already hunt big, split treeing, a lot of, there's a few of them that'll go hunt by themselves and, is treeing. And the main thing is they have game when they tree. Then we bred him to another female as a total outcross, and those pups seem to 6 months old, and there's one guy just called us the other day and said, we showed this pup a coon, and we let him out, a few days later, and he went hunting and treated a wild coon, it had never even really been coon hunting. So he is, he seems to be reproducing pups that are, got natural instinct to chase game and tree it, which, I've never had a hound, and I've had several that it's reproduced in this early of a starting pups, that are where people are calling it back, where they're just babies, that are already going hunting and treeing coons.
Yeah. So how old is his oldest pups now?
They're 9 months old.
Okay, so they're still babies.
Oh yeah, they're still babies, and you're probably not. You just don't see very many off the. If they're true wipeout style dogs, you're not going to win the baby stakes with none of them. They're probably not going to be hunt ready by 9 months old. But a lot of them, you really don't see or hear of them. You see them start to hit the winter circle when they're 2 or 3. A lot of the big winners, and they stay there. And but it is absolutely, a lot of people ask, like I said, I wanted to keep what I got and go get something that I wanted. And two, it was just, it's not very often that you get to breed to a dog that reproduces at an elite level. And I think a lot of people don't realize what they haven't kept up with it, like how well Zeb 3 reproduced. I mean, almost 1% of his puppies won world championships. I don't know how many platinums, but, yeah, go ahead. Was you going to ask something?
Yeah, I was just going to, for me, it ain't, I don't have anything against Walker dogs. I would hunt a good one that suited me, no trouble whatsoever. But I just like to show up to something different, at a hunt, because that's what everybody else is hunting, as a Walker dog. I'd like to have something different, to come up, and I want something that I can put in a winter circle, and that's what I'm looking for, too. But in the end, people like me and maybe even like you, would we not just be better off just to go to hunting Walker dogs? Or, do you think we can produce that? Even like, you said you bred D to that English female, and I think you would have to take one of those puppies and breed it back to another English male to get it back registered as that actual English dog. If I'm right there, I may be off a little bit, but something like that. Are we trying to produce something that's going to take time to get it there, so we can just call ourselves hunting something different, or would we be better off just to go find us a Walker dog and hunt it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, the problem that you're having right now with what's going on in the competition world is really, really changed. Number one is, for years, a lot of people had researched the wipeout line, but, the original Zeb dog, the one he only had. There's never been he only had 60-something puppies, and for a dog that only had 60-something puppies to impact the breed the way he did, because he was unique and he reproduced it. That's what a reproducer it ain't about reproducers list. It's about what can a hound do to better a breed, and he did that. He reproduced a unique hound that reproduced, and they kept reproducing. And a lot of these dogs, you see them, they'll reproduce but a lot of times they don't. Their grandpups don't, or their pups don't reproduce the way that they did. So as far as getting, things have just changed with the number one is Zeb3 and some of those other wipeout dogs has had a tremendous impact as far as changing the breed to a different style that makes it a little bit more difficult to win. And number two is, the walker people now used to, I think people just sit there and read a magazine and saw an all grand pedigree and a dog was bred good and might have done, and then they just went bred based on that. Now, every weekend you're turning on you can go on, these big hunts. They're having one every weekend, and they're filming these final casts. So, a young kid that may have a dog or a guy over here that pleasure hunts and just goes to a local hunt every now and again, watches one of these dogs puts on a clinic, and he either goes and breeds to the dog or he goes and breeds to his dad. They do a little research, and I think that has had a tremendous impact on helping that walker breed, because let's face it, I mean, when I first started getting into the English dogs, we had just won, the English breed had just won 4 world hunts. And when you look at the numbers, that wasn't supposed to happen. But you just don't see it anymore. Am I saying that if you hunt a red bone, a blue tick, or an English, or whatever it is that you want to hunt, I'm not saying that you can't win with those dogs. But a lot of people ask me why I bred to 3, because I saw that if they put a big prize out there, and you put a big prize at a hunt, and it was that way for 15 years. You put a big prize on a hunt, and it's an elimination style hunt, and 10 of the nation's top wipeout dogs were headed there. And if you didn't have one in your box, you were taking a knife to a gunfight. I mean, because they just won about everything, and even if you did see something else win, it was just miraculous on how well those dogs reproduced. It was almost, fathomable. And if you want me to go into some stats on there that a lot of people may not know, it's unbelievable. To give you an example, for the for a 10-year period, Zeb3 had, I believe it was 12 or 13 dogs make the final 6, and I think 8 or 9 of them made the final 3. And 3 of his direct offspring won the PKC World Hunt, which is arguably the most prestige, hunt to win. Where, I mean, there's 1,500 dogs that show up to win that thing. He only had 600 puppies, and then, in the top 15 dogs, he had I think I got it pulled up right here, but yeah, 3, and then Tank, which was one of his offspring that made it, has reproduced the last 2 PKC World Champions. He only had 100 puppies. So you can't use the numbers thing. It's just those dogs, like I said, and Walker people even realize, if you see a dog reproducing and winning and then reproducing, it just really strongly come from that line of hound. But yeah, looking at the list on here, out of the top 15, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 out of the top 15 that are pups or grand pups to Zeb3 that are on all-time winning list already. And the other one was Wipeout Echo, which he had a year last year that may break records forever. What he won with that dog in a year, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, that's for sure. So we're we're red bone guys, blue tick guys, black and tan guys, English guys. What do we got to do to catch up to the bar? I mean, arguably, and I don't think anybody could argue this point, we are behind the curve. here, and we've got to start making some strides forward, or we're going to be watching Walker dogs get their pictures taken for the next 10 years or 15 years until we do something different. What do we got to do here to kind of flatten the curve?
Well, and let's just go back to make it simple. Now, not everybody takes hunting to this extreme. Two of the most pleasurable hounds I ever had to hunt were not like Dot. I hated pleasure hunting that dog. I really did. She was not a fun dog just to go out there and sit on the tailgate and hunt. But boy, she was tough to beat in the hunt. I mean, she was. But a lot of people, let's go back to making it simple and what wins. And I think the main thing that you need a big. I'm not saying you got to have a big motor, but I can only think of one hound, and that was Halftime Ruby. That everybody tell you it was just pop coons around you and was just really, really good at it. But a dog that'll hustle and moves fast through the woods can find a track faster. That's just that. So I'm not saying there's not English dogs with big motors, but it's hard to find one that consistently reproduces one. And then number two, the independence, and then the having the coon, and that's hard to find anything that'll reproduce that over. But you got to find a way to either get a hound that'll reproduce that. And another thing that, like the English breed, maybe I think are lacking on is, when you can find that over there, you're at a real big time disadvantage if they're not a tracking type or a trailing type dog. And I tell you, when you're in a cast, what are you always judging? Even if you take last strike, because used to the tighter mouth dog give you an element of surprise in a hunt, but these dogs don't tree together anymore. So when you're judging a dog, you're always judging the dog as barking, right? So
yeah.
if your dog's trailing way over here, it ain't saying nothing, and the other dogs are trailing, in this direction, and you walk out of here in front of it was barking, you can always, you just did a little bit of a disadvantage if that dog isn't barking. So I think throwing a little bit, into there, but I think, some breeders may have to do what I did, just in my opinion, to just go get you some, because the problem there is the Walker breed has had a few reproducers that have really changed the breed and better for the competition style dog to be able to compete at the, elite level. In endurance, there's a big difference in heart and endurance. I've had 4 or 5 dogs that were either crossed up, wipe out, or full wipeout bred, and you could not wear them things down. I had a crossbreed that was directly off of Hellbilly, and it was Briar Creek bred on the bottom, and that dog, you couldn't run her down. I mean, you'd hunt her all night long, be walking out of the woods, and she'd be about to drag you down. I remember I used to run her. I was an athlete when I was younger, so I'd run. And I remember I used to take her on 6-7 mile runs, and then I'd get her back, and I'd try to wear her down, and I'd hunt her. You couldn't wear her down. And she done a lot better when she wore her down, but I think that's why that line of dog has done so well is, and I've even noticed this in D, it's like he gets stronger the harder you hunt him. His big hoe is he don't operate right in warm weather, but when I was getting him ready for I went to the Black Eye Pea with him last year, and when I was getting him ready for that hunt, I remember we shift hunted him, because he seemed to do better when you hunt him, and it was like the more we hunted him, the stronger he got. We just couldn't wear him down. But yeah, I don't have the answer. It saddens me. It really does to, not to say and to offend anybody that the English and the Blue Ticks don't have dogs that win, but I think they need something that's unique, breed for traits, and then reproduce the uniqueness into the breed, to give it that edge that it needs to get back to compete with them.
Yeah, I agree. We definitely need to be looking, and one thing that I think that I don't know, I guess I see this in some of the other breeds I've been in, and some of it is people say I don't care about comp hunting and and this, that, and the other, and that's fine, and I'm with you. I mean, I've got a buddy of mine's got a little English female, and if competition hunts quit today, I'd be knocking on his door trying to buy her, because she is a pleasure to pleasure hunt. But she is right now just a pleasure dog. When she gets treed, she's going to have a coon, but she may not get treed every time. She's got a good mouth on her. Um, top dog, and to pleasure hunt, that's what I like. My creeper dog that I just sold, he, kind of like your that dot female you were talking about. If I just had to pleasure hunt, I wouldn't be pleasure hunting him. I mean, he wasn't that type of dog. But I think jealousy, and I don't even know if jealousy is the right word for it or not. But people, well, this guy done me wrong 15 years ago, so I'm not going to breed to his line of dogs, even though I see that he got something that could benefit me, and then take one of those pups and find something else to that would benefit it. I think Brandon Gaines, I think he's got English dogs out here in Oklahoma, and I think he really is striving hard to try to find that English dog with the extra gear, and I think he's trying to breed for that too.
Oh yeah, yeah. I just think you need a little bit more people committed to doing that. The problem you get into is you can take the best. It's just finding it. It's what's so hard is finding it reproduces it. Like I said, the unique. Like once you get it there and get it, you can even breed it, and it's just very hard to find one that and that goes for anything. There's just like I said, very few dogs that are unique reproduce that into their pups, and I was fortunate Dot did to an extent. It's like I said, I did go breed the 3, and I got a winner. Did I get exactly what I want? I wouldn't say that, but I would rate him up there. He's about to, a lot of people ask me, which one would you like better? Well, it was warm outside, and both of them's got a time of the year. They're both real similar hounds, D and Dot. Just what they're like when the hard winter gets in and it gets rough. I'm pulling D out every time. He can tree coons in the winter and come up with them as good as anything I ever said. If it was summer, if it was warmer weather, later spring, both of them are real good in the later spring. But yeah, I don't know what the answer to all that is. All I can tell you is I went bred, and it worked for me. And when I bred, he's reproducing good young puppies. That's about all I can tell you. Whether he's going to reproduce or not, I don't know. Do I think he could help, the breed out some? If he reproduces what he is, no doubt, absolutely, But I don't know that. I can't make that claim. But there's, and I'll say this. I mean, we and I've been guilty of this. I went to the national championship. I made the top 20 of that. Made the top 20 of the world. Won the breed hunt. When I go to a hunt. Some of these people that are hunting these elite dogs, when they go to a hunt, they're going there to win it. You know what I mean? There are a few hounds that every time they have a big hunt, to give you an example, the dog that won the Tournament of Champions turned right around a few weeks later and won a brand new pickup truck. You know what I mean?
He was in at the Super Stakes and got injured.
Yeah, he was in at the Super Stakes and got injured. And see, he's off of Little Money, and Little Money was off of a female called Wipeout Margarita, I believe. So he's a grandpup to Zeb again. I actually bought Zeb again semen. and I had it, and I sold it there a few years ago. I guess I bought it back before I bred Zeb, the Zeb 3. And but now Zeb again, he was a for sure running dog that would tree. But he had a tremendous impact on the Walker breed, a tremendous one. But yeah, that's what I'm saying is almost all the time you see these dogs, and they may be all off a different line, but they do got a shot for some unknown reason. Zeb 3 and Zeb again, And a lot of those dogs, they just mixed with what was going on in the Walker breed, like peanut butter and jelly, and that's the reason I went and got some of it. And like I said, it's worked for me so far.
Yeah. How old is D now?
I think he's 5. I think he may be coming up on 6. I think he was born in 18, so it's 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Yeah, he's either 5, fisting to turn 6, or 6. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are y'all breeding quite a bit, or?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I've had a lot more Walker people interested in. We got 3 or 4 Walker females. Which I'm fine with that. I've gotten to the point, like, it's like I tell anybody, Jason, when you go to a hunt now, if you're going to run the bigger hunts, you just really can't afford not to lose for too long. I mean, you got to be winning a fairly high percentage of your cast, or you're going to go broke. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, if you're going to run in today's and really get the mix and try to run, it's just different. Which I don't know if that's good or bad. It really I don't do it for the money. I'm just one of those. If they put a hunt on, I want to go compete against the big boys, and I do like to, now hunt something off at one of my breedings, or hunt something different. That's just how I am, and but yeah, we have we've got a few Walker females, and if I can get one of them, I wouldn't be, I guess I'd run it too, because like I said, you got to have something that's going to win a pretty high percentage of them casts now, or you just can't afford to go.
Yes, especially with the entry fees like they are. I mean, you gotta have one that's going to be pretty consistent. You don't have to win them all, but you definitely need to have something that's consistent. And if you're not winning pretty consistently, I mean, even for someone like me, I go and I enjoy, meeting new people, and that's one of the things I love about this podcast is, I get to talk to different people all over the country and about something that I love and have loved doing for most of my life, and that's coon hunting. And that's one thing that I love about going to these hunts in different places. But even for me, even though it ain't always about going out there and winning, I do want to have the opportunity to be in the winner circle at the end of the night. And, so far I've had a dog that really wasn't that consistent at doing it, and another one that was so-so, and now I'm back down to puppies and starting over.
Yeah. Well, you got to go and just see, but there is more to this than luck. I mean, it's like I said, so even though as competitive as it's gotten, with as many good dogs as we have now, there are still people, that are winning at an elite level. And I would love to, I guess a lot of people, why I do this, I would love to someday own an elite, what I called an elite hound. And let me get, as good as Dot was and as good as D is, I'll be the first to admit, when I go to a world hunt, even though I've made it deep into them, I've never went to a world hunt felt like I had the most capable dog of winning it. I'm just, you know what I mean? I can look at myself and say, I can look in the mirror and look at what other people are hunting and bringing, and I hunted with them. I know them. Hey, I was a collegiate athlete, and I played against first-round draft picks. And I'll be the first to tell you, the first time I saw a first-round draft pick, I knew I wasn't one of them, And but no, it's just all about finding that that dog. Like you just got to keep breeding and try to better yourself. But yeah, I guess that's why I do it. Is I would love to, make a few more crosses. Maybe this off Trudy, everything will line up right, and maybe I'll be going to a world hunt someday where, and going to a lot of these hunts, really feeling like I've got the most capable dog there winning it.
Yeah, Yeah, I definitely understand that for sure. Um, well, I've kept you a little bit longer than what I originally said, but that's okay
Well,
with
I
me
enjoyed it.
if you're okay with it. But did we miss anything in there that we needed to cover that we had talked about we wanted to cover?
No, I don't think so. And I hope, and I will say this: I hope what I said hasn't offended anybody. It's like I said, I'm not saying that there's not good other hounds and all that kind of stuff. But when I turn on I'd love to 10, 15 years from now turn on and while these truck hunts are going on or the nationals are going on, more of these dogs, that don't look like enlarged beagles. I guess that's why I don't like them. They look like an enlarged beagle. And it's like I'd love to see, a little bit more of the spread of the power between the breeds, getting into some of these hunts. I think it would be better for coon hunting. And especially people that love a specific breed that want to do this at a higher level.
Oh, yeah,
But
I agree. I agree for sure.
yeah, if you ain't trying to get better, you know what I mean. Sometimes you just got to look and you just got to try to find a way to get better. And
Yeah.
what that answer is, I don't know.
Yeah, and we're talking here on what's today? Monday the 13th, May the 13th, and the national finals was last night, and there was two Walker dogs and blueberry wine, and I'm not familiar with blueberries with Blue's background there, but
he's a winner. He's a winner.
but yeah,
Ain't no doubt.
that's a dog that you see pretty consistently being there winning or somewhere around winning anyway.
Yeah, and they don't even know who his daddy is.
Yeah, yeah.
So I understand it. Yeah.
So he is a crossbred, right?
I think so, but I don't know. I don't think they know who his daddy is. So I've heard different stuff, and I hate to comment on that because I don't know. But he did make the final six of the world, and he made the final cast of the nationals. So he's a winner, and he may be a product crossbreed. And I have no idea.
Yeah, yeah. Well, do you got any coon hunting stories you can share with us before we jump off here?
I've got a bunch of them. I guess the funniest one is I actually made the news one time. I was trained, back when I was in college. I was training. I tell this story to people all the time. They get a kick out of it. I was hunting a black and tan puppy, and it was a different one. It was off of Bruce's line, and a buddy of mine made the cross. Anyways, he was just kind of a started dog. One you'd take out and you'd have to walk him through the woods, and he was getting to that point, like if you ever smelt a coon, he might venture out there and tree it. Well, I was sitting there walking him one night down a trail, and I heard him, he disappeared there for about 10, 15 minutes. He was completely silent. And I heard him blow up trees way up on the top of the mountain. And I got up there. Anyways, I walked up there, and that was back before we had these kind of lights we got now. Remember how the bulbs would shoot on them? And I got up there at the top of that mountain, and I found the coon, and he looked at me, and then I couldn't find him. So I walked around that tree, I don't know how many times. And I used to take a compass with me. This is back before Garmin's, but I used to take a compass with me, and I left it back at my truck. But up there on top of that mountain, it flattened out just like a bottom. So after I walked around that trail a whole bunch of times, I never could get that coon to look at me anymore. I couldn't remember where I come from, but if you're on top of a mountain, so anyways, I guess I chose the wrong side of the mountain to walk down on. And I started walking down that mountain in my bulb shots. I had no light. And I had that dog and another dog with me, and I'm sitting there. These rattlesnakes, and timber rattlers up in there, and I'm just, I can't see nothing. It was still, in that fall time of the year. So, anyways, I just started walking. Next thing I knew, I knew I went wrong because I wound up walking up in somebody's backyard, or I saw a light. So I walked to it, and I walked across I walked across that. They had like a wood line that went out, and I realized I was on a highway. But they were two ways back to my truck, and one was about a 10-minute or a 10, 15-mile walk through pavement, or walking back over that mountain, with no light, which would have took me several hours. So it was right after I got a cell phone, so I thought, well, I'll dial the operator, and maybe they can send a police officer out here to pick me up. And anyways, I couldn't get no signal there, and I started trying to hitchhike. and wouldn't nobody pick me up, and I realized I had a rifle on my shoulder. So if you're ever going to hitchhike, don't have a rifle on your shoulder. So I threw my rifle down. Nobody would pick me up. So finally, I just called 911, and they answered right away. And I told them, what I was doing, and so they sent a police officer after he picked me up, and he took me back to my truck. Well, I got home and went to bed. I didn't have to work or nothing. Next morning, I got up. My mom wakes up. She goes, "Did you get lost in the woods last night?" I said, "What are you talking about?" And I went on. The news picked it up. I guess they didn't have a lot going on. Made like, I got lost and had been lost for days and and everything else. But I told that story, so I got the nickname 911 in the area. Because I called called 911.
Oh man!
Come pick me up. But yeah, we all. Yeah, that was the craziest one I could think of off the top of my head was getting lost in the woods. Well, I wouldn't call it getting lost. Like I said, I I was out, but making the news, or getting lost in the woods.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Well, I got one more question, and I'm only going to ask this. I don't ask this question to everybody, but I'm going to ask it because my home state is your home state. So do you pull for the west side or the east side of the state?
I pull for the winning side. That's one thing I was born in. Yeah, I pull for the west side. There ain't no doubt. And that's another remarkable thing is what that guy's done. And I mean, it's just it's been leadership means everything. And it's been fun being an Alabama fan, and I'll just say this: I'm be spoiled probably for the rest of my life after what's went on with there. But yeah, I'm a Roll Tide fan.
Okay, well, I guess I'll go ahead and say it: War Eagle.
War Eagle. My wife's an Auburn fan, so we sort of got a house divided, and she's done about talking to all my kids into pulling for them too.
Well, my wife is a Alabama fan. My oldest daughter's an Alabama fan. My oldest son's an Alabama fan. My youngest daughter is a Alabama fan, and my youngest son, me and him's the only Auburn fans besides my mom. Everybody else in my family are Alabama fans. I guess that goes back to the reason why I don't hunt a Walker dog.
Yeah. Well, I was sort of born into it, but hey, I was a fan of them. I was a big Alabama fan when they went through that horror. They won the national championship in '92, and it was just up until Saban got there. It was just
you was an Alabama fan when Mike Price was there, huh?
Absolutely, I sure was. Yeah, when all that stuff. Yeah, it was sort of hard to get into it then, but yes, sir. That's I've always rooted for the Tide. And
well, being an Auburn fan, I've rooted for more losing seasons than winning ones. So.
Well, there was a time I think y'all won the national championship, and we had won. I mean, I think it was about 4 or 5 years where the state of Alabama, either Alabama or Auburn, won the national championship. That was back.
Yeah.
I think when Cam was their quarterback. Yeah, we had a real run there for a while, but yeah, it's probably better. Well, I say that it's hard to bet with what all is going on and how that's changed. I mean, there's another thing that's changed, and Saban did a real good job, of adapting to it. But just things change, and when they change, you got to adapt.
I am a fan of SEC sports. Period. And I'll say this: I've kind of being an Auburn fan. You always watch what's going on. As I'm sure Alabama fans always watch what goes on over at Auburn. Auburn fans always watch what goes on in Alabama. And, seeing Nick Saban through the years and what he's done with that program and the way that team started this year and what he done with that team to turn them around, to put them where he put them, I said to my wife, this might have been his greatest coaching year of his whole career.
Oh, it was. He done that team. I was shocked. I thought this is, we're going to have a bad year, real bad year at the beginning of the year when I saw how. But him and all of them turned it around and sort of made something out of nothing, and almost won it. But he showed. You're right. He showed he was the GOAT this year with how bad they was at the beginning, and how good they got as it went on.
Those first few games were brutal to watch, and my wife my wife said, just turn that off. I'm not even watching that this year. My oldest son, I mean, if they're playing, he is in front of the TV somewhere or has got his phone in his hand watching, and I mean, he's die hard. I will say, he is very, very skeptical and kind of worried about the new coach and kind of what's going to happen here. But I guess time will tell.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, I just sort of I can't expect what has happened because I think what Saban done is long gone now. Until they change some stuff. With the NIL and the transfer portal. I just I believe it's going to be hard for anybody to get on top and stay on top the way he did.
Oh, I 100% agree. They have got to fix that. All I can say is I wouldn't want to be in DeVore's shoes following Nick Saban out of Alabama. That's not the job I would have picked.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's tough.
But this ain't about football. It's about coon hunting, and
well, I call both. I love both of them.
Yeah, I know. And if my co-host was here, he'd be saying, "All right, that's enough talk about football," because he don't know nothing about football and don't like football. So, but he's a Yankee, so that's it is what it is. But
yeah, which one's your co-host?
Brett Stevens.
Yeah, I've talked to him on the phone a time or two. He's got a nice English dog. A lot of people say he's got a big mouth, and he is a beautiful hound.
Oh, yeah.
Intelligent hound.
Yeah, he's got.
I really like him. He's a really good guy.
Yeah, he's got a big mouth on him, and he's putting that in his pup for sure. I think Lee's got two over there. Chuck Henson's got one of them, and then I think Lee just bought a litter mate female to that one that's out of Loner and Whitted, and I've got a pup here out of Loner and Brett Star female that, I mean, he's just a baby, but holy cow, he is going to be a big houndy dog, and he is going to have a mouth on him. But
yeah,
if you
Colton. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, if you need a little mouth on something, that's one thing I'll say. Loner's put it on there, and he likes to be by himself.
Yeah, I've heard that about him too. Yeah, yeah. Oh, there's a lot of these. I love what was what's that little female that the mini monster?
And yeah.
Alan Short's line of dogs. I mean, you see them. He's Junior's produced, in the Cracker Jack dog. I think that his name.
Yeah, I think so.
He's reproduced, some dogs that are doing some winning. So it's not that I'm totally blind and not seeing all this stuff. Well, the spec dog, off of Awesome this year. He made the final 24 of the tournament champions, I believe, and the world. He's had a real big year. That dog, he's done real well. But I've hunted with some fine English hounds. It's just, my thing is I do think we're going to have to, as the overall breed and a lot of these other ones, is rethink things to get, because the competition world is just now changing. And,
yeah, for sure.
The last time I'll say this, last time I hunted DC, I don't hunt him that much, just Colton and Dylan, usually hunting, but I hunted him a lot year before last, but last year I went with him one night and Colton, we flipped him in the first drop in a little bit under 5 minutes. He was sitting under a coon at a half a mile. I couldn't recut him because he was in a bad area. I went down the road and cut him. Now he was hunting through woods. This ain't running edges. I cut him through a bottom and he treated another one at a half a mile. It might have been a little bit over a half a mile in about 5 minutes, and then I recut him off of that treat. He went 80 yards and treated another. I figured up he'd been off at least 12 minutes and treat 2 coons and covered, about a mile and or treat 3 coons and covered about a mile and a half of ground. It was pretty impressive what he did, and I just hope he reproduces that, in his puppies. I sure do.
Yeah, that's about what you need. You need that one that can get in there and get it done and don't mess around doing it.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely gives you a little bit of an advantage.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, I don't know if you got anybody you want to thank or shout out or what, but I have kept you way past longer than I said.
Well, a lot of it's probably me. I was going to try to. So if some of this that might not be interested to people that you want to delete or take off the podcast, you're welcome to. But my uncle, and I know I'm going to get, leave somebody out of this as far as coon hunting goes. My uncle, he passed away, the one that got me into hunting, and we shared a lot of coon hunting stories and a lot of coon hunting trips, but he passed about 5 years ago. So I'd like to give him a shout out up in heaven, because I know he's there. And I'd also like to, the main people in coon hunting is I'd like to thank Dylan Hovey. I wasn't able to go to all these hunts, but I had a role. A lot of times I would pleasure hunt them and help get them prepared, and then I would, give them over to somebody else. And me and Dylan owned Dot, and Dylan's dad owned him together. And I'd like to thank Colton. I think that's pretty. Colton had never trained a dog before when I sold him to D. He was 18 when he bought him. He's 23 now, but he's done quite. He's made him a Grand Knight and a Platinum champion. So. He's done a lot of winning with him, and I thank him for, what he done. And I'd like to thank Keith Suttmiller for selling Dot to me. That's really, changed I've had a lot of fun hunting her and hunting dogs off of her. Seth Ish for leading on to, me and Seth, we still speak, a lot. And I appreciate what he's done for the English breed. And, the other person is Barry Kitty. He's given me a lot of advice and also to help me kind of think out of the box, as they say, in breeding and just a lot of different, conversations that he's probably 10, 15 hours told me stories about it. It's something when you talk to a man, about hounds and all the winning when he's on to sit there and talk, just ask question after question. And then when you get done, you go, well, there was another, dog that won all these big hunts that he's owned. I forgot to even ask him about, but yeah, I'd like to thank Barry, for all he's done and the help, as far as what to look for and how to breed. He sort of gave me some good breeding tips, but yeah, I guess that pretty much wraps it up. And I really appreciate you, invite me to come on here. I love talk coon dogs because about all I do is work and raise kids and hunt whenever I get a chance. And always, reminding people to take kids hunting. That's one of the biggest, since I've got this little Walker female. And now she can win. She's not what I call a winner, but she's one of the most accurate hounds I've ever had. And she is a hunt dog. She just don't operate right in the cast a lot of times. But I said if I ever got one like her, I'd just keep her. And I found kind of a new hobby and love is I've taken a lot of kids with her. And, I don't have a lot of coons, and that's one of her strong points is I can let them kids sit in the truck, and I've had a whole bunch of them and take them with her. But one thing I know is when she does get treated, I'll walk her in there. I'm gonna show them coon almost every time, But yeah, just because somebody would have never took me or you or whoever's got into this is we got to take them to make sure we keep our our younger generation to keep this great sport going.
Yeah, 100%. We definitely need to make sure we're doing our part to introduce younger people and kids to hunting for sure.
Yes, sir.
Well, if you don't have anything else, I think we've kind of covered it there, and we'll maybe we can do this again here in about a year or so, see where some of those pups are at out of D, and maybe maybe you or me or somebody stumbled across the right cross to help the English breed or some other breed that's out there.
Yeah, sure. I sure hope so. I just, everybody just needs to keep trying and breed for what you like.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, Nick, I sure appreciate you joining me on this Monday evening. And if you don't have anything else, I think we about shined this tree.
Yes, sir. Thanks for calling.
All righty, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you. Right back.
Thanks, guys, for listening to the Coonhound Collective podcast today. We really appreciate you taking your time out of your day to listen to the podcast. If you don't mind, head over to Facebook and give us a like, and head over to Instagram and give us a follow. It's both at the Coonhound Collective. Also, if you would like to reach us here at the Coonhound Collective, you can reach us at thecoonhoundcollective@gmail.com. If there's someone that you would like to hear on the podcast or a product that you would like to hear talked about, please send it to thecoonhoundcollective@gmail.com. Thanks again. Have a great day.